So when it comes to Eldritch abominations, it's easy to rely on Lovecraft's creations as fact above all. I know I've done that before, but I wanted to challenge myself today to try and think more outside the box, and let's see what I could do. So I'll let you folks be the judge of how my brain fared. Question for y'all, what do you consider to be the most terrifying creature out there? Let me know in the comments and let's test my knowledge together. Let's start off today with a doozy for me, an Aboleth from Dungeons & Dragons. Look, I asked 3 different folks I know who play it how to pronounce the dang name. I've only ever been a member in a part of a single D&D campaign, and I just couldn't figure it out. Didn't vibe with my brain, not fun for me. Maybe I'll try again some other time. We'll see. So not only are Aboleths some of the first monsters in the manual, they're also some of the first monsters in the 5th edition Nebulous collection of notes that are called canon. Aboleths are old and remember a time before the gods, which that is an Eldritch thing. Also, this is just absolutely wild. They're also all ancient psychic fish who have the ability to transform you into a being that cannot live away from the sea, living only to serve the Aboleth. Each one has a perfect memory, and it concocts schemes that would take more than a lifetime to see plan out. These are perfect Eldritch horrors when you need something ancient and alien. Alrighty, so to go more in depth, I did pull up the stat sheet for this entity. This beast has a whopping armor class of 17, which basically means good luck trying to nail it. And don't even get me started on its hit points. It's got 135 of those bad boys, so you're gonna need some serious firepower to take this thing down. But here's where it gets kinda freaky. The Aboleth can breathe both air and water, so there's literally nowhere you can hide from it. And if that's not bad enough, it's got this nasty mucus cloud ability that basically turns you into a slimy, diseased mess if you get too close. Which, ew. Oh, and did I mention it can read your mind? So this Aboleth has this thing called probing telepathy, which means it knows all your deepest desires, which no thank you, I'd like to keep those private. Oh, and there's more. This thing can straight up enslave you with its mind. One minute you're minding your own business, you're on your quest, having a good time, and the next thing you know, you're under the Aboleth's control, unable to resist its commands. And hey, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, the Aboleth has legendary actions. Yeah, that's right, it can take 3 of these bad boys, and each one is more terrifying than the last. From tail swipes to psychic drains, this thing's gonna stop at nothing to destroy you. Don't worry, here's the really messed up part. The Aboleth makes its lairs in subterranean lakes or depths of the ocean, surrounded by the ruins of its ancient city. So not only is this thing super powerful, it's also got a creepy lair to match. And get this, its mere presence warps the region around it. Underground surfaces become slimy and wet, water sources get all fouled up, and it can even create illusions of itself to mess with your head. So yeah, I think I'll pass on ever encountering one of these Eldritch nightmares. Thank you very much. Next up, the Leviathan. So this is a Lovecraftian-like eldritch god from the fictional universe of the Hellraiser movies and comics. It has existed for numerous millennia, ruling over Hell and the Cenobites, and is obsessed with law and order. Not the show. To it, the human realm of flesh is chaotic and wrong, and therefore it uses its little minions to wage war against it. The hell of the Leviathan represents the maze of the mind, which is why it takes the form of a labyrinth. Sadly, not the movie with David Bowie. Legend says that it is ancient, existing long before the creation of life. Chaotic life spreads across the world until it broke through the walls of hell, bringing light and life to that realm. Leviathan retaliated and pushed back, but soon threatened his world again. It decided on a new approach and reached into the dreams of men, giving men the desire to dominate and shape the world, to crush and slaughter those who stood in the way. It whispered to them of machines, weapons, and tools. Man began to destroy and slaughter. While the world continued to grow, it was now also dying. The Leviathan then visited man in its dreams again, and influenced them to make their world like his, covering the land with concrete and erecting monolithic towers that reach the sky. The Leviathan is the creator of the little minions, right? And those come in many shapes and forms. This is an immortal entity that feeds on the souls of those brought to its realm, but were not deemed worthy enough to be made its little minions. When its beam of black light hits you, he slips inside, and by the time it passes, he knows more about you than you know about yourself. Which, useful, but terrifying. So if you're touched by the black light, you feel every sin or wrongdoing you have done throughout your life. Ooh, that's terrifying. His only weakness is the lament configuration, which if solved in hell, temporarily weakens him and causes him to lose some of his power. But only one weakness? And he can know all my little sins? No thanks, I don't need Catholic guilt. Hermaeus Mora from Elder Scrolls is the only Daedalic prince that strikes me as actively Lovecraftian, and not just for his presentation. He is not known for being good or evil. He seems to be the keeper of both helpful and destructive knowledge, although he usually sees all seekers of any knowledge as his servants. His goals are very hard to define, because he deals intimately with knowledge and sanity, and is very, very, very powerful. Other members very much have definable spheres and understandable goals, which is contradictory to the point of a Lovecraftian deity. Also, the princes are almost definitely weaker than the old gods, and have limited influence on Nirn and in Oblivion, and can't even begin to reach beyond the Orbis. Now, all of these old gods are primordial, multi-universal entities. So I'm checking off all the boxes here. Seems like an Eldritch abomination. Time to talk about a personal favorite, the Gaiaphage. Also known as the Darkness or Gaia, it is the main villain in the Phase universe from the Gone series by author Michael Grant. So this story begins in the town of Perdido Beach, South California, when one day, out of seemingly nowhere, everybody over the age of poofs without a trace. Literally, people are in class and in the blink of an eye, this teacher and some students are just gone. A translucent globe forms a barrier around the town limits that nobody can cross, and when people inside the globe age and reach the age of they also risk poofing away suddenly. So, to go back through time, in this world more than 1 million years ago, a race of life-worshipping aliens infected a dead moon with a carefully structured virus with the ability to affect the fabric of reality. They then kaboomed the moon, sending thousands of seedlings out into the universe in hopes that the virus would land on lifeless planets and create life. But one of those fragments reached Earth approximately 1 million years later, hitting the Perdido Beach nuclear power plant, killing Tegan Smith, the father of Sam Temple, who is the main protagonist of this story. Now, his corpse was driven underground along with the uranium core of the power plant. The uranium in Tegan's DNA allowed this virus to mutate into a radioactive human-alien hybrid monster, which went insane and called itself Gaiaphage, or World Eater. And instead of creating life, it started to cause other living things in its proximity to mutate. For example, humans began to gain powers, and animals began to evolve into bizarre monsters. Some humans were found to be more vulnerable than others because of their genetic connection to the World Eater. One of the main characters, Diana Landris, had the ability to read and rank powers based on a 0 to 4 bar scale, and only Sam Temple and his half-brother Kane reached the 4 bar height, while a young autistic boy named Little Pete had power beyond the range. So this overall being itself feared very little, and all those who come into contact with it are mentally affected. It is rivaled only by Little Pete, which is nicknamed Nemesis. This being of all beings has access to all the powers ever discovered in this little universe called the Phase, as long as the person that has the power remains alive. If the owner of a power is ended or passes for any reason, Gaia is no longer able to use that power, which is why it's reluctant to kill powerful humans. However, the only powers that Gaia actually seems to have itself are mimicry and mind control. Visually, Gaia is going to appear as a mass of glowing green crystals that seethed along the ground in the mineshaft, and when somebody poofs, Gaia is going to appear before them as a being with green eyes and a fanged mouth. Throughout this series, Gaia manipulates a pack of mutant coyotes, directing them to capture a human with healing abilities named Lana after it discovers her healing power, using her to give one of his disciples named Drake a kapow hand after Sam burned off Drake's arm in self-defense. It tried manipulating Little Pete into manifesting a body similar to a lethal nesting doll, with Pete eventually creating a female avatar called Nereza. Now, Gaia used their mind control powers on another human to turn off the power plant, steal a nuclear rod from its core, and deliver it right to the mineshaft hideout in the desert so it could gain further power. The creature was actually able to convince another human that it was God, gaining her allegiance in an attempt to break free from the Phase, which is described as like an egg that Gaia grows inside. It aspires to be born into the outside world, but in order to do this, it needs to assimilate the power of the person who created the egg, Little Pete. Gaia attempts to eradicate the humans entirely by setting near-invincible mutant bugs on them, but Little Pete makes the bugs and himself go pfft. Despite having its consciousness destroyed in the battle at the end of the last book, Gaia is still alive in some capacity. But anybody who's going to venture into the mineshaft exhibit, well, they're going to have some extremely violent behavior and become very mentally disturbed, resulting in the mineshaft eventually being closed off permanently. But Gaia is still able to give those who go near it powers, but that range only extends as far as the mineshaft. So yeah, Gaia, Lovecraft, it makes sense to me. Let me know, by the way, in the comments if you've also read this series, because it's so incredible. Alrighty, so because I think I'm funny, we're gonna end today with Abeloth, which, not Aboleth. Haha, see? This This Star Wars universe being is an Eldritch abomination for sure in appearance and being. She is self-styled as the beloved Queen of Stars and also known as the Bringer of Chaos and the Destructor, which was an extremely powerful Force entity. Her dark side powers and immortality derived from her being corrupted by drinking from the font of power and bathing in the pool of knowledge. She first lived as the Servant, a mortal woman who served the powerful ones on a jungle planet over 100,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. She's insanely powerful, possibly even cosmic tier powerful. She had the power to make both the son and daughter kneel down before her, who are the most powerful Force sensitivities in the entire Star Wars universe, only below the father. It should be noted that these characters are Celestials, which is the creator race of all of Star Wars. Her actions corrupted her, transforming the mother into the twisted, immortal entity known as Abeloth. To take into comparison, Abeloth, not even at her fullest potential, is just about 12 times more powerful than the strongest incarnation of Luke in terms of Force strength. It also should be noted that Lovecraftian monsters are really incomprehensibly powerful to the mortal mind, and Abeloth fits that category very well. And that brings us to the end of our time, so hopefully I had a fun enough mix for everybody today. I've been Alexa, your resident Ookie Spooky girly, and if you enjoyed my ramblings today, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you weren't already, hit the bell for more abominations from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.